the odds of you existing are basically zero. And yet, here you are, about to learn how music can literally control your mind, and why NASA pays a guy just to smell things. I've dug through the weirdest corners of the internet to bring you 20 random facts that will genuinely blow your mind. And yes, every single one is real. Statistically, you and I shouldn't exist. The chances of your parents meeting, forming a relationship, staying together long enough to conceive, and then the odds of the exact sperm and egg pairing that created you is 1 in 10 to the power of 2.7 million. For context, this is larger than the number of atoms in the known universe. The fact that you and I are here right now is a miracle. And here's something else that might surprise you. A defibrillator, those metal paddles you see in movies, they don't restart a heart's beat. They shock it back into sync. When a person flatlines, there's no electrical activity in the heart, so there's nothing to shock. Defibrillators simply won't work. What they actually do is they try and shock your heart back into its normal rhythm. In the movies, when they yell out "clear" and the person somehow comes back to life, it's fake. And you know what else is fake? Scrabble. I mean, Scrabble players, they use fake words all the time. They call it phonying. It's where they play a word they know doesn't exist. In the rules, they can play any word or non-word they want. It's only when the other player calls for an official check that they get caught out. It happens in tournament Scrabble all the time. Pros plant fake words to see whether the other player has the nerve to call their bluff, and there's a good chance they don't. And speaking of chances, they can now predict how many socks you'll lose each year. It's called the Sock Loss Index. It factors in laundry size, washing complexity, laundry positivity, and laundry awareness. All of this comes out to an annual sock loss score, and globally we lose about 1.3 billion socks each year. Then there's the guy that has to smell them. That would be George Aldrich. He works in NASA's chemical testing branch, part of an elite group called the Odor Panel. Now, George's one job is to smell every object that goes into space. With no gravity, smells stick around. And because of that, every item sent to space has to pass an official odor toxicity and acceptability test. If it smells bad, it's out. But it's not just smells. If it's fragile, it's out too. That's why there's no fancy teacups in space. That's a good thing if it's bone china, because the name is quite literal. Yes, it's actually made of bones. Specifically, cow bones. They heat them to over 1,000 degrees, grind them into fine ash, and then mix that ash into porcelain. I know what you're thinking, it probably makes it stronger or something, more structurally sound. No, bone ash literally does nothing other than make it look nicer. The guy that decided adding cow bones to cups for no other reason but to make it look a bit shinier. He needs help. It might help if he listens to some soothing music. And one crazy thing about music is that it can control how fast we walk. Our brains sync up to the beat through a process called rhythmic entrainment. Without thinking, the tempo makes us change our stride. And those marketing people sure know it. One study found that slow background music in a supermarket made shoppers spend up to 38% more time shopping. No surprise, they bought more. It's official, music is mind control. And English might be too. The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. It might sound like random nonsense, but it's actually a pangram, a sentence that uses every letter of the alphabet. Back in the days of typewriters, it was what they came up with to check all the keys on the typewriter were working. Today, they use it to test fonts for typing practice, and somehow, years later, we're still all talking about quick foxes jumping over lazy dogs. But we should be talking about woodpeckers, because they've got this weird thing where their tongues wrap around their brains. Their tongues are 3 times the length of their beak. To store it, it extends up the back of their throat, around their skull, and loops over the top of their head. But these tongue loops are actually helpful. They absorb shock. This is the reason why a woodpecker can hammer a tree with its head at over 1200 Gs of force without liquefying its brain. And if you found that interesting, how about the idea that you're more bacteria than you are human? Scary thought, but the stats don't lie. If you count up all the cells in your body, you'll find 30 trillion human cells and 38 trillion bacterial ones. Most are in our gut, helping with digestion and doing all the things we can't do on our own. So we need them. Or they need us. I don't know. But what I do know is that in Silverwood, California, every new homeowner receives what they call a kindness pledge. It's a document that lays out community rules like saying hi to your neighbours, avoiding gossip, and generally just keeping it respectful. And they even go as far as to give you help guides on how to handle disagreements and talk through problems. Who'd have thought that even after you become a homeowner, you're still treated like a child? I think a few people need a help guide on how to be a better driver, because around 80% of drivers think they're above average. Average being 50%. Yeah, this isn't possible. It's a classic case of illusory superiority, the bias that makes us believe we're better than most at almost anything. A study found 88% of US drivers and 77% of Swedish drivers rated themselves above average. And it's not just driving. People rate themselves smarter, more honest, more attractive, and they even think their YouTube videos are more likable. Actually, that's a good point. Why don't you hit that button down there? An air is a real unit of measurements. It measures exactly 100 square meters, but the only place it shows up today is in hectare, literally 100 airs. It's one of those ancient measurements that no one ever uses, but technically still exists. And I bet you didn't know this exists. A computer designed specifically for Amish people. It's like a normal laptop, but it's just missing most of the stuff that makes a laptop a laptop. There's no internet, no games, and you can't install anything. It's probably the most miserable laptop ever created. And speaking of interesting technology, let's talk military. Because the military uses silly string to detect hidden tripwires. They're neon and weigh almost nothing, so they just drift through the air and land on a tripwire without applying any pressure. You can just imagine sitting in one of those important military meetings, everyone's super serious, and then one bloke just yells out, "Hey, why don't we try using silly string?" I guess it's called thinking outside the box. Just like what they've done on Roosevelt Island, because since the 70s, the island's had its own underground trash network called the Automated Vacuum Collection System. People dump their rubbish into bins at street level, and it speeds through underground pipes straight to the place where they sort it. If you missed it, they've had this since the 70s. But not me. I've got 4 different bins for glass, cardboard, plants, and a mystery one that just sits there because I've got no clue what goes in it. Maybe toxic waste, like Tonka beans. The bean so infamous, it created its own black market. They look like big wrinkly sultanas and smell like vanilla, caramel and licorice all at once. The issue is that they contain coumarin, a toxic compound the FDA doesn't like, so the beans ended up banned. Chefs grate tiny shavings over desserts to enhance flavour, and really, you'd need to eat around 30 whole Tonka beans in one go for it to be dangerous. You shouldn't eat a jar of cumin either, but no one's banning that. In fact, there's probably a Guinness World Record about it, because those records can get weird, to the point where they'll certify almost anything. There's records for eating the most peanut butter in 1 minute, smashing wooden toilet seats on your head, and even the guy who tried to fit hundreds of plastic straws in his mouth all at once. If it's measurable, has a couple of witnesses, and it's on video, it's an official record. And there are people who basically make a career out of this. They call them record hunters. People who spend their lives trying to beat the most obscure records on Earth. Now, let's talk science. Did you know scientists have worked out how to literally create memories that never happened? In a study where people were given 3 real childhood memories plus 1 entirely made up story about getting lost in a shopping mall, with a few believable details added in, nearly a quarter of participants ended up convinced that fake event actually happened. So much so that they were able to describe the store, how they got there, and even the stranger who helped them. Scary thought when someone can make you believe something that never happened. And you might not believe it, but this one did actually happen. Back in the 30s, before coin-operated meters took over, inventors tried designing parking meters that would run off your car's battery. You'd pull up, clamp cables from the meter to your engine, And the machine would use power from your car's battery to track how long you'd been parked. But the idea never made it past the prototype. Batteries went flat, cars went up in flames, and the car battery powered parking meter ended up in the graveyard of failed inventions. I mean, those facts were good, but these facts, now, they're something else. Have you heard of AI model collapse? It's scary. And one word of caution, never use a bathroom hand dryer. But that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.